Hello everyone, and I hope everyone's been doing well. It's been a little bit. It's been about 2 weeks, more than likely. But the weather has been relatively quiet, especially for the southeast, South Carolina, North Carolina region. I do. The Ohio Valley has seen some activity, um, but not much at all. Not much at all. Nothing to warrant really a video or anything. But this changes, and Tuesday, so tomorrow, the threat for severe weather is possible across the Ohio Valley, especially the northern and the central and western regions of the Ohio Valley. So this is to the outlook from today. This is for tomorrow. Um, as we can see here, we have an enhanced region from Columbus all the way up through Rochester, New York. Buffalo seems to be right on the line there. And Cleveland's in there, Akron, Erie, Pennsylvania. So this enhanced risk is the highlighted zone for tomorrow, central New York through central Ohio. Our tornado risk with this it's going to be fairly low. It's going to be fairly low this time around. But however, a non-zero chance does exist. Columbus, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, up to Rochester, and even further east and northeast of Rochester have the possibility for a quick spin up. There's a damaging wind, and we can see that 30% hatched. Again, right where that enhanced risk is, so Columbus up to Rochester, and then that 15% kind of swoops in through northern West Virginia, central Kentucky, central Indiana, further south into western Texas. But interestingly enough, here our hail risk, we have potential significant risk of hail, 2-inch plus diameter hail likely, Cleveland, Columbus, Pittsburgh, Erie, Pennsylvania, Akron, Ohio. But this 15% risk, non-significant risk, extends northeastward up to Rochester. So anywhere in this 15% zone, especially in this hatched, needs to watch out for a large hail, 2 to 3 inches likely. And we can see in Texas that 15% risk exists for them down there. Again, here's that risk area again. Um, that marginal sort of just hanging in there through Charleston, Nashville, Jackson, Tennessee, Scranton, Pennsylvania. So let's dive into this a little bit here. And I am going to let me just look real quick. All right, I'm going to start with the 500 millibar winds here. It's a great way to sort of see what's going on. So today's severe weather threat. Let me show that real quick. May as well. This is today's severe weather threat, and we can see that moderate for Minneapolis and south of there. This is going to be mainly a tornado-driven and a hail-driven moderate risk here. So yeah, it's a potential significant day out there. They don't normally see. Every now and then they'll see this 10% hatch risk maybe make it up toward Duluth, Marquette, but this is one of those times where that 10% risk is sort of pushed up further north than it usually is. So be on the lookout, Minneapolis, Green Bay, Duluth, Des Moines, even Milwaukee here. All right, but let's dive into our air maps here. So this is what's going to impact that region today, and we can see that sort of jet streak in that moderate sort of bullseye in that jet streak approaching 80 knots. very sufficient enough, significant, I would say. But this little shortwave here, you can kind of see our little low pressure here, North Dakota, and this is just riding on this little shortwave. This low pressure enters the Great Lakes, and this is Tuesday morning by 10 a.m. And as we go about to like 1 or 2 p.m. here, we can see our main jet streak up north here, but we can see the leading edge of the I guess the outside of the jet streak here, but it's part of this sort of flow here. We've got this trough down here, sort of connecting with the flow of the shortwave here. But the main, the main jet streak there, but it's still connected to this flow. And by 1 or 2 p.m. here in our risk area, we can see uh, 50 knots, 55 knots, and as we go on through the afternoon, 60, 65 knot uh, winds at 500 millibar level begin to start showing up. So we move on. It's the further north. It's probably why that enhanced risk is further north. That those winds are going to be a little bit stronger, up to 55 knots. Further south, only 40, 45. Um, so yeah, that's nothing significant, but definitely sufficient enough, especially further north into a sort of central Ohio, eastern Ohio, central Pennsylvania, and much of New York. I see the NAM 3K here, see what it sort of shows and kind of compare contrast here. We can see that again, that main sort of low pressure here, North South Dakota, our main jet streak in that bullseye zone today, again around 80 knots. As we move on, this is Tuesday morning, 10 a.m., 1 p.m., 2 p.m. Um, yeah, the bulk of our winds here are through like Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, Erie, kind of Louisville as well, 50 to 60 knot winds. Um, as we move on in the evening, that sort of gets um, advanced um, eastward. I will say, I think the Ohio River here across West Virginia and then up through Wheeling down to like the coal fields. There's going to be, I think, a significant cutoff of where we'll have sufficient upper air winds here of around 50, 60 knots compared to like 35 to 45 knots. Um, it's just not going to be, I don't think it's going to be enough. But if you just go about 100 miles sort of west, it will be. And that's sort of why we have some load here. We'll have our marginal here because as that the main upper air will move eastward, but we can see that our main threat's going to be sort of, I think, Pittsburgh, sort of Portsmouth, Ohio, Louisville, Evansville, Indianapolis, sort of in this little range here up through Rochester, Watertown. But we'll see. We'll see. And as we move on here, Tuesday evening here, we can finally see that forward progression some. But like I said again, it's just not going to be maybe by 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Any convection out west can ride that sort of into central PA, central West Virginia, sort of the coalfields region in Kentucky. Well, next I want to look at our dew points here. Just kind of see what type of moisture uh, we're looking at here. So this HRRR model here. Um, we can see a nice warm sector for today, and that sort of transfers over until tomorrow here. And by tomorrow afternoon, by 2 p.m., we'll by 2 p.m. here. Um, we can see our mid low 60s from, Pittsburgh, Rochester, Columbus, Cincinnati, Lexington, Indianapolis. Um, we can see that's where our main warm sector is, even some mid 60s and up into Canada Canada there. So, um, yeah, nice warm sector in place here. A nice warm sector. Um, let's see how east this warm sector goes here throughout the evening, according to the HRRR. And by 7 p.m., yeah, I mean that warm sector is pretty mostly dominant here across the Ohio, central Ohio, central West Virginia, pretty much all of Kentucky, southern Indiana, southern Illinois, much of Tennessee. That warm sector is fairly dominant in that region by 7 p.m. Mid 60s reaching Midwest Virginia, even some upper 60s in central Kentucky there. Pretty impressive. And as we move on, that sort of warm sector gets pushed south. The dry air, cold front, um, it sort of sits in Kentucky, West Virginia, southern Indiana, Illinois. All right, let's check the NAM here. Let's try to compare, contrast here. Your upper air maps are fairly similar. HRR and NAM fairly similar. The NAM could be a little slower, but not much, if any. Here's our NAM model for our dew points here. Okay, this is Tuesday morning, about 11 a.m. here. Again, very nice warm sector. I'd say even nicer than the HRR model here. Even some 70s creeping up to Indianapolis, the Paducah area. As we move on in the afternoon, one thing I can notice, these 60 dew points are further east compared to the HRR. Um, this warm sector just looks really good. We got mid 60s up through like Buffalo, New York, Rochester, the Rochester region, even 70s up through Indianapolis now. Mid 60s, Columbus, Cincinnati, Lexington. Remember, you need lower 60s or higher to be sufficient enough, dew points to be sufficient enough for thunderstorm development. And clearly that warm sector is going to be juiced up and ready. And as we move on into the evening here, those mid 60s reach up all the way up into Canada, uh, northern central New York, 70s approaching Ohio, mid 70s now in Tennessee. So again, the warm sector for the NAM here is a lot more potent than the HRRR. So next, I want to look at I want to look at the bulk shear, and this is a 0 to 6 kilometer um, model here. This is a nice tool uh, to sort of look during severe weather events. So this is the HRRR here, and we're just gonna go through this. It's real quick. So this is Tuesday afternoon. Tuesday afternoon around 1 here. And again, our main sort of piece of bulk shear here will be across central Indiana through western Ohio at this time around 1 p.m. This will align pretty well with convection that should be ongoing. The convection should be starting around then, around central Ohio, um, maybe a little later, but around 12 or 1 o'clock, it seems like models are liking that idea. As we go on throughout the evening, our 40 knot bulk shear is evident across that 2% risk. But it's just not great. It's just not great. Um, 40 knots isn't, it's just enough to sort of warrant that sort of 2% risk, shear wise. And we'll look at instability here in a second. Um, I do want to look at the NAM 3K's bulk shear here. Yeah, the NAM is less bullish on that further west, which makes me think the NAM is sort of behind maybe an hour or two on this system potentially. We'll look at that as well. But again, nothing impressive. Further north, we're getting 45, 50 knots. So the tornado threat further north into like Buffalo, Cleveland, Erie, maybe Pittsburgh, Youngstown, Ohio, sort of maybe even up toward south of Buffalo, and so again that tornado threat uh, is in that sort of general area, and we can sort of see that with the where the highlighted bulk shear is across that region. Let's look at Cape here. Let's go look at the surface-based Cape here. This is still the NAM 3K model, and this is Tuesday at 1 p.m. and we can see our warm sector is really over central Ohio, much of Indiana, southern Illinois, central western Kentucky and Tennessee. That's our where most of our juice is for these thunderstorms. Um, as we move on later in the evening, though, we could see that sort of warm sector start to stream in, especially across central, eastern Kentucky and Ohio, western West Virginia, and then even up into northern PA and sort of western New York. And again, as that daylight sort of ends, most of that energy will begin to go away. But um, yeah, especially central Ohio, um, northern PA, northern New York, western New York. Um, Good amount of instability in place, especially with that bulk shear. Going to be, I think, a quick spin up or two is very likely if you get a dominant supercell across to that region. Very likely, I think. The only issue is I think there will be too much dry air and atmosphere up above, and I will show that here shortly. Here's the H triple R. We're just going to look at this real quick. Again, the surface-based cape. Okay, by 2 p.m. here. Again, not as not as a sort of big as the NAM or sort of as intense as the NAM cape wise, but we can see in central and western Kentucky some 3,000 cape values. Northern PA, western New York, 1,500 to 2,000 values, joules per kilogram values are possible. We kind of see some convection sort of pop up in this here. Ahead of this convection, 1,500 joule per kilogram possible across central Ohio. So instability on the HRRR is there, but just not as you can just kind of see there. It's just not as strong. I mean, you're getting 4,000 up through Indiana and Western Kentucky and Tennessee. That is quite a bit, quite a bit for this region and time of year. So let's look at sort of the reflectivity of what could happen here, and I'm going to zoom in some here. Start off with this sort of region first here, and so this is a Tuesday morning here, and we can see our main sort of this is H triple R. Our main sort of convection will be across central Indiana at this point. And as we move on across the afternoon, this main convection is going to take advantage of the environment. Um, Regardless, there should be enough instability. Both models kind of hint at that enough instability is in place and is sufficient enough for thunderstorm development and strengthening. Um, it's just our upper air shear isn't great. So as we move on, this is around 3 p.m., 2, 3 p.m. here, and we can see sort of our line of convection sort of from the Youngstown region all the way down to Lexington here. I'm going to take a sort of sounding here near the Lexington region, sort of east of it. So, so here I again our shear values are surface to 1 kilometer, 11 kilometers, surface to 3 kilometers, 26. Not good at all. I mean that's not gonna really cut it here. However, we do have around 2,000 surface cape. Our mixed layer cape is around 1,500. Our three cape is around 73. It's not terrible, and our surface at 3 kilometer above ground level lapse rate is around 8.3 Celsius a kilometer. So that sort of tells me that some large hail, um, up to 1 to 2 inches, possible main threat with this sort of convection line through here. If we go further north, like the Parkersburg region here, take a sounding. Might be contaminated. Let me go back an hour here. Um, Again, shear is not great. We can kind of see that in our photograph. It's sort of bunched up, just sort of messy looking. Our cape, 1,300, or Accelerator cape, not even 1,000. Three cape is 59, not great. Um, our lapse rate is a little higher. It's a little better. Um, you can kind of see that that dry air difference here. Um, and why tornadoes aren't going to be as supportive down here. But again, maybe 1 inch hail with this setup and stability doesn't look as great further north, according to the HRRR. Around 7 p.m., we get another sort of convection cluster, central Kentucky. Let's sort of take a sounding again in the Lexington region here, out ahead. Um, our shear values are have increased. Again, not great. Not great. There's really no turning at all in our winds. Um, our surface cape looks good. Our mixed layer cape looks good. Our three cape looks pretty good as well. And that might be it's what could be generating this sort of tornado uh, risk. But um, I wouldn't really say that's a risk. I'd say damaging winds and some hail up to 2 inches still likely. Um, Really, probably 1.5 inch, but 2 inch hail possible. The strongest storms, but that convection sort of moves across central West Virginia, fizzles out. And I want to take a quick look at the Northeast here and take a few soundings. Um, the HRRR, we can see sort of this discrete supercell across Western New York. So let's take a sort of sounding out ahead of that. And so yeah, this looks a little bit better here. Our shear values are our surface to 3 kilometers definitely sufficient. Um, Close there, and then our surface cape 1800, mixed layer cape 1200, 3 cape 120. So yeah, I mean this is let's look at our photograph here, and we do have that sort of right curvature there between our surface and 2 kilometer range. So yeah, I mean our tornado threat up north is definitely, I'd say, sort of Cleveland, Erie, the Buffalo region up through Rochester. That's going to be your main threat for severe weather, tornado wise. Um, Sort of in this general area here. Like watch like this discrete cell here. If anything discrete sort of pops up, um, yeah, it could produce a quick spin up. Let's look at the NAM just real quick here. Just get a few soundings. Um, See what the radar could look like according to the NAM. It's Tuesday afternoon. Doesn't really show that convection across central Indiana, so there's just some discrepancy among the models here, convection wise, but we can kind of see you can still see sort of that line of convection from north eastern Ohio down through central Kentucky here. Let's take a sounding here, and again, I mean we have our nice cape. It's just our shear values are just not great at all. Um, Not great at all, and it's going to limit that kind of severe threat further south, until those shear values come in later in the evening. But by then, your daytime heating is sort of gone. I want to take a sounding in the northeast here, kind of look at the the models, and yeah, we can see some stronger cells across central PA and western New York. So let's take a sounding in sort of central PA here. Again, our shear values are our shear values are a little bit better, but not great. Surface cape around 2K, mixed layer around 1200, not bad, not bad. Our lapse rates look pretty solid. Again, yeah, some potential for some large hail up to 2 inches, and your increased tornado threat. You still have some of that curvature in our photograph. This was in central PA. So yeah, our tornado risk across through here, northern Ohio, northern central sort of PA, western, and sort of northern New York is going to be the target zone, I think, for any sort of um, tornadoes. A large hail probably going to be central Ohio through central PA and in that sort of general region. So again, here's that risk, and I'll have a video out tomorrow, sort of an update video, but I kind of um, wanted to go through those models and sort of the different things I look at when I sort of look at severe events here. But again, I'd say the best tornado threat is going to be sort of Buffalo, Rochester, sort of south down to Cleveland, Youngstown, Akron, Ohio. I think the northern quarter section of this enhanced risk here, and our large hail is going to be Columbus, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, this kind of southern section of the enhanced risk. Um, However, a quick spin up is still possible anywhere in this enhanced area. And that slight risk again sort of goes through much of the Ohio Valley, other than the far southern sort of and western portions of it, but slight risk for pretty much everyone in the Ohio Valley for that hail and damaging wind risk. So just stay weather aware. Tomorrow I'll have an update video But until then, talk to you guys later.